The crisp white envelope felt like a death sentence in my trembling hands. It wasn't a love letter, nor an invitation to celebrate. It was a formal notification, a stark, cold declaration of the end of everything I thought we were. Divorce papers. Signed by Dr. Marcus Thorne, my husband of 5 years, the man whose medical degree I had paid for, whose dreams I had nurtured with every ounce of my being. My heart, which had swelled with pride just hours ago watching him stride across the graduation stage, now felt like a shriveled, bruised thing, barely beating in my chest. He didn't even have the decency to tell me face to face. No, Marcus, in his newfound glory, chose to send a messenger, a curt, impeccably dressed lawyer who delivered the papers with an air of clinical detachment, as if he were handing over a receipt. The lawyer's practiced politeness only amplified the cruelty of the act. I remember my vision blurring, the vibrant colors of our small, cozy living room, the very room where we'd planned our future, where I'd patched up his scraped knees from late-night study sessions, where we'd shared countless dreams over cheap coffee, dissolving into a hazy wash. When I finally reached him, my voice a raw whisper on the phone, he didn't offer an apology, not a single word of regret. Instead, his voice, now imbued with a chilling arrogance I hadn't heard before, sliced through me. "Eleanor," he began, and even my name sounded foreign, distasteful on his tongue. "Your simplicity embarrasses me. You are no longer worthy of me." My breath hitched. Simplicity. That was the word he chose? The simplicity that had cooked his meals, ironed his scrubs, held his hand through grueling exams, and paid every single one of his exorbitant tuition bills. The simplicity that had believed in him when no one else did. The simplicity that had poured 5 years of her life, her savings, her very essence into making his dreams a reality. And now, that simplicity was my undoing. He thought he was discarding a simple lunch lady, a relic from his past he no longer needed. He had no idea he was declaring war on Eleanor Vance, the secret owner of the city's largest commercial real estate empire. To understand the depth of his betrayal, you need to understand our beginning. I met Marcus in a bustling university cafeteria, not as a student, but as a young, unassuming woman working a part-time job to make ends meet. He was a bright-eyed, ambitious pre-med student, full of grand visions and a disarming charm. He had that spark, that magnetic personality that drew people in. I was just Eleanor, quiet, observant, content with my routine. He saw something in me, or so I thought. He'd often linger after grabbing his tray, talking about his dreams of becoming a surgeon, of building a state-of-the-art clinic that would serve the community. I listened, captivated, my heart stirring with a feeling I hadn't known before. When I finally reached him, my voice a raw whisper on the phone, he didn't offer an apology, not a single word of regret. Instead, his voice, now imbued with a chilling arrogance I hadn't heard before, sliced through me. "Eleanor," he began, and even my name sounded foreign, distasteful on his tongue. "Your simplicity embarrasses me. You are no longer worthy of me." My breath hitched. Simplicity. That was the word he chose? The simplicity that had cooked his meals, ironed his scrubs, held his hand through grueling exams, and paid every single one of his exorbitant tuition bills. The simplicity that had believed in him when no one else did. The simplicity that had poured 5 years of her life, her savings, her very essence into making his dreams a reality. And now, that simplicity was my undoing. He thought he was discarding a simple lunch lady, a relic from his past he no longer needed. He had no idea he was declaring war on Eleanor Vance, the secret owner of the city's largest commercial real estate empire. We fell in love, or at least I fell in love. He was everything I wasn't, bold, articulate, destined for greatness. I, on the other hand, was grounded, practical, with a quiet strength that most people overlooked. He saw me as his rock, his anchor. He'd tell me, eyes earnest, "Eleanor, you're the only one who truly believes in me." Those words were my oxygen, my purpose. Life wasn't easy for Marcus. His family, though supportive emotionally, couldn't afford his medical school tuition. He worked tirelessly, but the debt was mounting, the pressure immense. I watched him struggle, saw the dark circles under his eyes, the worry lines etched into his forehead, and my heart ached for him. It was then that I made a decision that would change both our lives irrevocably. I would pay for his medical degree. Now, here's the part Marcus never knew. My simplicity was a carefully constructed facade. My parents, shrewd and incredibly successful entrepreneurs, had built a formidable commercial real estate empire from the ground up. They had instilled in me a deep appreciation for hard work, discretion, and the value of true character. They believed that wealth could blind people, attract the wrong kind of attention. So, from a young age, I was taught to live modestly, to observe, to understand people for who they truly were, not for what they could gain from me. When they passed away unexpectedly in a tragic accident, I inherited everything. The empire, the properties, the vast sums of money, it all became mine. But I kept it quiet. I continued to live in our modest home, drive my sensible car, and yes, even work my part-time jobs, occasionally helping out at the university cafeteria. I wanted to find love that was genuine, a partner who would see me, Eleanor, not my balance sheet. I wanted someone who would value the simple, kind-hearted woman I presented to the world. Marcus seemed to be that person, or at least I desperately wanted him to be. I saw his ambition, his drive, and I believed in his potential. My inheritance allowed me to provide for him without a second thought. I told him I had some savings, a small inheritance from a distant relative, enough to cover his tuition. He was overwhelmed with gratitude, or so I thought. He promised to pay me back every single penny once he became a successful doctor. He promised me a life of comfort, a future where we would build our dreams together. I didn't need the money back, not really, but his promise, his commitment, meant everything to me. For 5 years, I was his silent partner, his unwavering support system. I managed our finances, ensuring every tuition bill, every textbook, every living expense was covered. I cooked his favorite meals, listening patiently as he recounted complex medical cases, his eyes alight with passion. I was his sounding board, his confidant, his biggest cheerleader. While he spent his days buried in medical texts and clinical rotations, I spent mine quietly managing the vast portfolio of properties, attending board meetings in discreet locations, making strategic acquisitions that further solidified my empire. My two lives ran parallel, never intersecting, a secret world hidden beneath a veneer of domesticity. As the years wore on, a subtle shift began to occur in Marcus. The charming, humble student slowly began to morph into something else. The gratitude in his eyes was replaced by an increasing sense of entitlement. His conversations shifted from our future to my career. He started making comments about my simple life, my unambitious pursuits. "Eleanor, don't you ever wish for something more?" he'd ask, a patronizing edge to his voice, as if my contentment was a flaw. I brushed it off, attributing it to the stress of medical school, the pressure of his demanding field. I told myself he was just focused, driven. I chose to believe in the man I loved, the man I was investing everything in. Then came the final year, the light at the end of the tunnel. He started spending more time away, citing late-night study groups, hospital rotations. I understood, or tried to. But the little things started to accumulate. Forgotten anniversaries, missed calls, a growing distance in his gaze. He began to talk about a new clinic, a grand vision he had, a state-of-the-art facility that would be the envy of the city. He spoke of prestigious partners, venture capitalists, high society connections. I listened, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and a faint, unsettling unease. He never mentioned our contribution, my sacrifice. It was always his vision, his achievement. Graduation day arrived, a beautiful, sun-drenched morning. I sat in the audience, a lump of pure joy and anticipation in my throat, watching him walk across that stage, cap and gown flowing. He looked magnificent, truly. I envisioned our future, the life we would finally build together, free from the burdens of student debt, ready to embrace the next chapter. He found me in the crowd, a fleeting smile, a quick peck on the cheek. "We did it, Eleanor," he said, but his eyes were already scanning the room, looking for others. Later that evening, at the celebratory dinner, I saw her, Dr. Evelyn Hayes. Young, stunning, impeccably dressed, a rising star in the medical community. She hung on Marcus's every word, her laughter tinkling like wind chimes. He introduced her as a colleague, a potential partner in his dream clinic, but the way their eyes lingered, the subtle touches, the undeniable chemistry, it was a punch to the gut. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach, a premonition of the storm to come. He barely acknowledged me for the rest of the night, his attention entirely consumed by Evelyn and the glittering future she represented. And then the divorce papers, the crushing phone call, his words echoing in my mind. "Your simplicity embarrasses me. You are no longer worthy of me." It wasn't just a breakup. It was an annihilation of my self-worth, a brutal dismissal of my entire existence. He had used me, bled me dry, and then cast me aside like a broken tool. The tears came, hot and furious, blurring the edges of my world. I cried for the lost years, for the shattered dreams, for the naive woman who had given her heart so completely. But beneath the raw pain, something else began to stir. A cold, hard ember of fury. He had declared war, indeed, and he had no idea who he was fighting. My initial shock gave way to a chilling clarity. I had spent years hiding my true capabilities, my true identity, for the sake of love, for the hope of finding genuine connection. Now that carefully constructed illusion was shattered. The simple lunch lady was gone. In her place stood Eleanor Vance, a woman whose empire spanned the city, whose network of connections reached into every corner of its commercial landscape. His words, "You are no longer worthy of me," played on a loop in my mind. He thought he was moving on to bigger, better things. His dream clinic, that was his golden ticket, his monument to his newfound status. And that, I decided, would be his downfall. I initiated a quiet, meticulous investigation. My team, a group of highly skilled legal and financial experts who had managed my family's empire for decades, were discreetly put to work. "I need everything on Dr. Marcus Thorne," I instructed my lead attorney, Mr. Davies, a man whose poker face was legendary. "Every financial detail, every investment, every property he's looking at, every partner he's courting. And I need it yesterday." Mr. Davies, a man who rarely showed surprise, merely raised an eyebrow, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He knew I didn't make such requests lightly. It didn't take long. Marcus, in his arrogance, had been quite vocal about his plans. His dream clinic was to be located in a prime downtown area, a historic building that had recently come on the market. He had secured a substantial loan, brought in several investors, and was in the final stages of closing the deal. The building, a magnificent old structure with ornate facades and high ceilings, was perfect for a high-end medical practice. It was the epitome of his ambition, his vision of success. What Marcus didn't know was that the building, while technically on the market, had been quietly acquired by one of my shell corporations months ago. It was a strategic purchase, part of a larger downtown revitalization project my company was undertaking. The previous owner, a reclusive old man, preferred to deal in cash and discretion, making the transaction practically invisible to public record until the final papers were signed and filed. Marcus, focused on his own rising star, had been too preoccupied to notice the quiet movements of the real estate market. He had been negotiating with a holding company, completely unaware that the ultimate owner was the woman he had just discarded. I allowed the charade to continue for a few more weeks. I watched, through my network, as he finalized his plans, signed leases, hired staff, even began ordering custom-made furniture and state-of-the-art medical equipment. He was building his empire, brick by agonizing brick, on land that was secretly mine. The irony was a bitter, satisfying taste in my mouth. Then came the day he was scheduled to sign the final lease agreement for his clinic space. It was a grand affair, held in the building's newly renovated lobby, complete with champagne and a small gathering of investors, potential partners, and, of course, the impeccably polished Dr. Evelyn Hayes, looking smugly triumphant by his side. Marcus, beaming, was shaking hands, accepting congratulations, radiating an aura of untouchable success. He looked exactly how I had envisioned him 5 years ago, but now the vision was tainted, grotesque. I walked in quietly, dressed in a simple, elegant black suit, my hair pulled back in a severe, no-nonsense bun. The chatter in the room momentarily died down as I entered. Marcus, mid-sentence, turned, his smile faltering as his eyes landed on me. His face, usually so composed, went through a rapid series of emotions: confusion, annoyance, then a flash of irritation. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" he spat, his voice low and laced with disdain, as if my presence was an embarrassing stain on his perfect day. I ignored him, my gaze sweeping over the room, acknowledging a few familiar faces among the investors, people I'd done business with for years, people who knew exactly who I was. Their expressions were a fascinating mix of surprise and dawning comprehension. "Actually, Marcus," I said, my voice clear and steady, cutting through the awkward silence, "I'm here for the signing." I walked directly to the table where the lease documents lay, Mr. Davies standing protectively beside them. Marcus scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. This is a private business matter. You have no place here." Evelyn, beside him, smirked, a look of condescending pity on her face. I met his gaze, my eyes devoid of any emotion. "Oh, but I do. You see, Marcus, you're about to sign a lease for a space that for the past several months has been owned by a subsidiary of Vance Holdings." I paused, letting the name hang in the air, watching the color drain from his face. Vance Holdings, the largest commercial real estate firm in the city. The name was synonymous with power, with untouchable wealth. His jaw dropped. "What are you talking about? That's impossible. I've been dealing with Sterling Properties," he stammered, his voice losing its confident edge, a tremor of panic entering it. "Sterling Properties is a shell corporation, Marcus," Mr. Davies interjected smoothly, handing me a thick folder. "It's wholly owned by Vance Holdings. Ms. Vance has been the ultimate landlord for this building for quite some time now." I opened the folder, pulling out a document. "And as the owner, I'm here to inform you that I will not be renewing the lease you thought you had secured. In fact, due to certain personal circumstances, I've decided to pull the property off the commercial market entirely." Chaos erupted. Investors murmured. Partners began to look at Marcus with suspicion. Evelyn's smug expression had vanished, replaced by open-mouthed horror. Marcus, however, was still in denial, his face a mask of disbelief. You own this building? But you're a lunch lady." The words tumbled out, revealing the depth of his contempt, even in his panic. A cold, hard smile touched my lips. "The lunch lady you so carelessly discarded, Marcus, is Eleanor Vance. And yes, I own this building, among many, many others. Your simplicity embarrasses me," you said. "Well, your profound ignorance, your staggering arrogance, and your utterly transparent greed, Marcus, now embarrasses you." His eyes, wide with a dawning, sickening realization, darted around the room, meeting the incredulous stares of his now former partners. The dream clinic, his entire future, was crumbling before his very eyes. "You can't do this," he choked out, his voice hoarse, finally cracking. "We have a verbal agreement. My investors, my reputation." Verbal agreements mean nothing when the ultimate owner decides to change their mind, I said, my voice unwavering. As for your investors, I suggest you explain to them why you failed to conduct proper due diligence, Marcus. And your reputation? That, my dear, is something you destroyed all by yourself the moment you decided I was no longer worthy of you. I paused, leaning in slightly, my voice dropping to a chilling whisper, for his ears alone. You bit the hand that fed you, Marcus, and now you starve. The eviction process was swift and merciless. My legal team ensured every I was dotted and every T was crossed. The news spread like wildfire through the city's elite circles. Dr. Marcus Thorne, the rising star, the man who had publicly humiliated his simple wife, had been unceremoniously evicted from his dream clinic by the very woman he had scorned. His investors pulled out, his reputation was in tatters, and Evelyn Hayes, predictably, vanished from his side as quickly as she had appeared. I watched his downfall from a distance, not with glee, but with a quiet, profound sense of justice. It wasn't about the money, or even the public humiliation, though that was a satisfying side effect. It was about the principle. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about showing him the true cost of his betrayal. He had seen my kindness as weakness, my quiet strength as simplicity. He had mistaken my love for foolishness, and in doing so, he had sealed his own fate. My life moved on, unburdened by his presence. The empire continued to thrive, but I carried the lessons learned close to my heart. I learned that true strength isn't about what you show the world, but about what you hold within. And sometimes, the most dangerous weapon is the one no one sees coming. Before I sign off, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe to see exactly what happens when a man bites the hand that fed him.